correspondence with you whenever you're leaving the bus.
For YouTube.
YouTube? You got your own channel?
Yep.
What's your name?
OINAT. OINAT.
How do you spell it again?
OINAT. Yeah, this one. OINAT.
Had a great day for
Thank you.
filming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Both got red jackets on, haven't they? So it's quite
I have it there. Came at the day, they just sat in an office and just say, we're going to fix your roads. You deserve it for the state of the roads.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Go there, yeah, I'd sleep on that.
I don't want to pay that.
Somewhere else.
That's actually nothing to do with you.
Well, that's for the manager. She's naked. She's naked. Oh no, manager. She's naked. I think it was a little colour, the dark hair moustache. The beard. But if he's a regular, he goes in all the time. Second was trying, but it never come back in anyway.
Yeah, you just need to It's a question.
You didn't need to. Is that the one that's getting a book, isn't it? She'll probably get you both
You're very, very welcome if you've joined us today. My name's Emma. I'm going to be your guide today. Your driver's name is John. We'll be setting off in the next few moments. So as it's a hop-on, hop-off service, please ring the bell and just wait for John to bring the bus to a safe stop, just if you're wanting off at any of the stops. But your tour today will take approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. Just a little reminder that there's no smoking or vaping on board today. Also, no consumption of alcohol unless you're willing to share it with me. It's maybe a wee silly bit early for me, but I'll have a gin and tonic when I come back. So you're very, very welcome, as I say. You've joined us at stop number 1, and that's the Belfast City Hall on the right hand side. Sorry, excuse me. Belfast City Hall then the right hand side, built in 1906, designed by the architect Alfred Brumwell Thomas. Approximately 14 statues in the grounds of the City Hall. These statues do move around from time to time, but it's our civic centre, so that's where we register our births, deaths and marriages. And if you look over to the left, you'll see this balcony with the blue canopies. This is where the builders of the City Hall, H.J. Martin, sat and had their lunch and looked over the builders as they worked on the City Hall in the early part of the 20th century. So we're just heading down Donegal Square North. We're going to head into Chichester Street. The Chichester family and the were the heirs of the Donegal estate. They were the main founders of Belfast in the early 18th century. As we go around the city, you'll notice a bit of we like to name things after 2 people here. One being the Donegal family and the other one being Queen Victoria. And you will notice a bit of a Queen Victoria theme going on as we go around the city. We like to name a lot of things after Queen Victoria. So this is Victoria Square on the left hand side. Victoria Square, one of the main shopping centres for Belfast. If you've any money, there's a number of cinemas and restaurants in it as well, but if you do have any money to spend, they'd be very happy to see you in Victoria Square. Rainy day like that, you could be in shopping. My husband always says to me that there's no rain in the shops, so I'd be quite happy in there spending my lowly wages, John. But we're going to head into Victoria Street then, and the building over on the left hand side, it's going to be on your right as we turn the corner. It's the old town hall. And Queen Victoria gave us city status in 1888. She felt we needed a new building to replace to do the civic business of the city, to replace this lowly town hall here on the right hand side. So we built the Belfast City Hall as its replacement. There it was just past stop number 1. Just in front of you there's Belfast answer to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. This is the Albert clock, so this is named after the King Consort, Prince Albert, who was Queen Victoria's husband, and it was erected on just after his death. And you'll notice that it leans slightly to the right. And the reason for this being, if you take your mind back a few 200 years, Belfast actually built on 3 rivers. We have 2 of the rivers converge on this side of the city. So we have the Blackstaff, which is around the other side of stop number 1. But two of the rivers converge right here. So we have the Farset and the Lagan. And Belfast is actually named after Farset, the Belfast. My Irish is getting a wee bit better. John keeps teaching me how to say it properly. Belfast means mouth of the river Farset in Irish. So the Albert clock is built on some marshy ground that never dries out, and that's why it leans slightly. It was discovered to be sinking in the early part of the 19th century, but it's been shored up since. So our next building we're going to see is going to be on your right, and it's the Customs House Square. Customs House, as I say, when the early traders floated up the Lagan onto the Farset, this is where they paid their taxes, here in the Customs House. And then Customs House Square just in front of it, it's our open air concert venue, which is lovely if the weather's not like it is today. But in the summertime we do have some great events in Customs House Square there. We go around the corner, you're going to see a piece of public art called the Big Fish. Troy Walker says, it's you say what you see. It is a blue and white fish, but that's its name. Its proper name is the Big Fish by the sculptor John Kindness. And it represents the reintroduction of salmon back into the Lagan. The Lagan historically was very smelly and dirty, especially at low tide. But you got it cleaned up with the Lagan Weir here, and they reintroduced the salmon back into the Lagan so people can fish in it now. You still can't convince me to eat anything that came out of the Lagan, but apparently it's perfectly safe to do so. But I'll just take people's word for it. So we're going to cross over the Lagan from County Antrim into County Down. We're going to cross on the Queen's Quay, formerly known as Queen's Island. Named after, say, Belfast, my favourite Queen, Queen Victoria. So Queen's Island was all formerly Harland and Wolff shipyard, and this is all reclaimed land. When they were dredging out the channel to make their Lagan a little bit wider, they dumped all the excess earth onto this side of the river, and they made Queen's Island. And it was formerly like a pleasure island. They had fairgrounds on it, but eventually it became the Harland and Wolff shipyard. Our next stop then, stop number 2. This is for the SSE Arena, the Odyssey Plaza and the Odyssey Cinemas. And the Odyssey Plaza and the SSE Arena were a millennium project for Belfast. We were given money in the millennium, and this is what we built with ours, and that's it there just coming into view in front of you. So the Odyssey Plaza has a number of restaurants. It's got a cinema and a bowling alley in it as well. And the SSE Arena there on the right, that's the home of our ice hockey team. So saying that after the millennium, we're only a few years after the Belfast Peace Process, so they thought that they would devise a sport that would bring the two communities here together. So they settled on ice hockey, and the only problem with that was that no one here played it or knew any of the rules or understood the game. But we had to draft in some players from Canada and North America and Scandinavia to play in the local ice hockey team here, the Belfast Giants. There's some local players in it now. There was also a suggestion when they were setting up the team, they were looking for a name, and they thought maybe it might be a good idea to call them the Belfast Bombers. But it was thought in light of our recent history, that maybe that wasn't such a good idea. So they settled on the Belfast Giants after the Giants Causeway. So our next stop then is stop number 3, and this is for the Titanic Quarter. Now this is the stop for Titanic Belfast, that's stop number 5. We're just on the edge of the Titanic Quarter. So this is only the stop for the Premier Inn, the Dock Cafe and the Public Records Office.
See where it goes, because if you get on it, you could have got on it here.
So we've got the Public Records Office here, will be on your right, and the Premier Inn on the left, and the Dock Cafe. I don't really speak about the Dock Cafe much. Do you know what the Dock Cafe is? It's an honesty cafe. So if you're down here, you can go to the Dock Cafe. It's an honesty cafe. I think it might be the only one in Belfast. If you go into the Dock Cafe, you just pay what you think you should pay, or you don't have to pay anything if you don't want to. But the Dock Cafe, it's actually located behind the Premier Inn. It's a charitable organisation. So stop number 3. This is your stop. So there's Titanic Belfast then coming into view just in front of you. Some people say it looks like an iceberg, but it's actually meant to look like a white star. If you look down on it from an aerial view, it's supposed to look like a white star. Suffered some damage to the roof there a few weeks ago, so that's why the scaffolding up on the roof. And it was closed for a few days, but it's since reopened. So that's it there on the left-hand side. But just in front of you on the left, that's the Titanic Hotel. This was formerly the Harland and Wolff Drawing Office. So this is where the plans for Titanic were drawn up. You'll notice that it's a very light, airy building. It's got a lot of windows in it. And the reason for this being that it was to allow the draftsmen to work in natural light as much as possible. It's now the Titanic Hotel. It's a 5-star hotel. And they still have some heritage spaces inside the hotel, which were part of the drawing office. But if you keep looking to the left, you'll see the Titanic slipway. Excuse me, and this is where the Titanic was launched on the 30th of May 1911. About 100,000 people watched Titanic leaving Belfast here for the sea trials. The launch took about 62 seconds, but it was watched by such dignitaries as Lord and Lady Perry, who were the owners of the Harland and Wolff shipyard. And Bruce Ismay. Bruce Ismay was the managing director of the White Star Line. He watched Titanic leaving Belfast here as well. Titanic Studios here on the left. This is formerly the Harland and Wolff Paint Hall. So it's sometimes called the Paint Hall Studios. So this is a paint hall that was repurposed to be used for the film and TV industry. Then stop number 4 for HMS Caroline is going to be your next stop, and this is also for the Titanic Dock, Titanic Distillery, Pump House, Great Light and the Maritime Mine. So that's HMS Caroline there on the right. The last remaining warship of the Battle of Jutland from the First World War. It's been here since about 1924, and it's part of the Royal Naval Floating Museum contingent. And that's the Titanic Distillery there, just located just behind it there with the green clock tower. As we turn round there, you'll probably see Belfast's 2 most famous landmarks there. You've got the 2 cranes from Harland and Wolff on the left, and you've got the Titanic Studios, the back of the Titanic Studios there, those 2 buildings on the right hand side. So our next stop's going to be for Titanic Belfast. It's going to be stop number 5. So this area, as I say, was all Harland and Wolff shipyard. And its heyday, about 30,000 men and women worked down here now. On the shipyard. There's now only a few hundred people work for Harland and Wolff. They don't do any shipbuilding here in Belfast. There is only some ships repairs, which you'll see dotted around the quays here. But there's no shipbuilding goes on in Belfast. And the main industry of the Titanic quarter now is the film and TV industry. So you've got the Titanic Studios, which is going to be on your right just as we turn the corner. And then we have some film sets as well, disused sets on the left hand side. Probably the most famous thing that was filmed in the Titanic Studios was Game of Thrones, which was actually filmed on location throughout Northern Ireland and throughout the world as well. But you'll see some film sets here on the left. There was a live action How to Train Your Dragon being filmed here up to a few months ago. Jared Butler was here filming that up until a few months ago. I think it's finished now. But they're nearly always filming something down here in the Titanic Quarter. So when you look to the right there, you'll get another view of the Titanic slipway just past the Titanic Studios, and that's Titanic Belfast then, the back view of Titanic Belfast there on the right. And the two cranes from Harland and Wolff, as I say, have been here since the early 1970s. I come from East Belfast, so they're a very, very familiar sight to me. And I always know when I can see those two cranes, I'm nearly home. You can see those two cranes from practically wherever you are in the city. So I say they're a very familiar sight to me. And that's the Titanic Belfast there on the right hand side. And the slips on the outside of the building behind them, they contain the names of all the men and women who worked on Titanic when it was being built here in Harland and Wolff. So stop number 5, this is your stop for Titanic Belfast.
One's further back.
I'm gonna see it as that's kind of
The typical museum, the actual museum,
just at the
oh, might look really nice. Obviously, it's not being well to that stop, is it, with the bus stairs?
No. Oh, it just goes right. Just goes right to the loop.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Mine is not bad at all.
Just joined us, you're very welcome on board with us today. My name's Emma, I'm your guide today, and your driver's name is John. If you want off at any of the stops, please ring the bell. Just wait for John to bring the bus to a safe stop. And if you're moving around the bus, please hold on to the handrails, as it can be a little bit slippy just because of the wet weather, the typical Belfast weather we're having just at the moment. But you're very, very welcome with us today. And you've joined us at stop number 5, so our next stop's going to be stop number 6 then for St George's Market. So Titanic Hotel then on the right hand side, you can see Titanic Belfast there just behind it. And that's the SS Nomadic there on the right hand side. The SS Nomadic is the last remaining White Star vessel in existence. It was used to tender the first class passengers from Cherbourg, the port in Cherbourg, out to the ship on Titanic's maiden voyage. French flag is at the back of the ship, as John pointed out to me earlier on, not the front. I thought it was at the front. So that's what the SS Nomadic was for. So Titanic was built here in Belfast. And we have a saying about Titanic, we always say about it was alright when it left here. But if you don't know the story about Titanic, on the 14th of April 1912, on its maiden voyage, about 3 days into the maiden voyage, and about 600 miles off the coast of Nova Scotia, it was bound for New York actually, Titanic struck an iceberg, and it punctured 4 of the watertight compartments. The ship started to sink. About 20 past 2 on the 15th of April 1912, the ship was entirely submerged under the water, and over 1,500 people had lost their lives. So Bruce Ismay, you'll remember I told you about Bruce Ismay. He was the managing director of the White Star Line, and he watched the Titanic leaving Belfast here for the sea trials in 1911. He was also on the maiden voyage. Bruce Ismay was a stickler for detail. Apparently, when Titanic was being designed, he personally checked all the beds, he personally checked all the equipment to make sure the correct equipment was on board, checked all the linens. The linens were made here in Belfast. He made sure it was meant to be absolute floating luxury. I was listening to something the other day that a first class ticket on Titanic was equivalent of about £400,000 in today's money, about $500,000. So I say it was absolute floating luxury. But Bruce Ismay, when he was doing the design, overseeing the design of Titanic, he reduced the number of lifeboats from 48 down to 20. And nobody's quite sure how he managed this, but he managed to get himself on the last lifeboat that left Titanic after the ship had started to sink. There's different stories about how he managed to do that. There's some stories that say he paid to get on, some stories that say there was a space and he just got himself on. He got himself on nonetheless. And he paid for it for the rest of his life, unfortunately. He was castigated in the newspapers. They started calling him a coward, said he hadn't followed the women and children first clue. So he ended up a virtual recluse. And his wife and daughter said that he could never speak about Titanic ever again. He felt so bad about what had happened. The next stop then, stop number 6, for St George's Market. We're just crossing back over from County down into County Antrim over the Queen Victoria Bridge, named after, I think, Belfast's favourite lady. Queen Victoria did come here on her tour of Ireland in the 1840s. She said of Belfast, told her advisors that she wanted it to be a yacht stop. In other words, I don't really want to be there too long. So we got all the streets cleaned up and got the buildings painted and got the bunting out. And she came here for a grand total of 4 hours. They used to say 4.5 hours, but I've since read it was 4 hours, even less time than what I thought. And I say, we've named all these things after Queen Victoria. We've got Queen's Quay, which we've just left. We've got the Royal Victoria Hospital, Victoria Street, Victoria Square. So I get the impression that we liked her more than she liked us. She did write in her diary that she enjoyed Belfast, but she never came back. So I don't know what that tells you. Over on the left hand side there, just approaching, you'll see a piece of public art. This one's called the Beacon of Hope. The lady stands on top of a globe of the world. She holds out a beacon or a ring of hope. And if you look closely at the globe, you'll see that it shows all the places where the people from Belfast have either emigrated to or exported to. We call her a number of different names. We like to give things nicknames here in Belfast. People call her Janet on the Planet. She can be called the Thing with the Ring, the Bell and the Ball. But my personal favourite is the Nuala with the Hula, or just Nuala. If you're meeting anybody down here, you'll say, I'll see you at Nuala. Everybody knows where you've been. We're entering into Belfast Legal District now, and if you look to the right hand side, this is a Laganinside Court, and you'll notice that it's fronted entirely in glass, which tells us that it was built after 1998. 1998, very important year in the history of Belfast. And that's the High Court there just in front of you, and the little bit that sticks out is a bomb-proof wall. During what we call the Troubles, there was a number of car bombs driven into this area, and the courts were very, very busy, as I'm sure you can imagine. So in order that they wouldn't be disrupted, they built this bomb-proof wall so that the courts could continue sitting throughout the troubles. But we're going to go around the corner, and you're going to see on the left then the stop number 6 is for St George's Market. Now the market is closed today, it's only open on the weekend, but if you're here for any length of time and you're here for the weekend, it's well worth a visit. One of my favourite places to visit in Belfast is St George's Market when it's open. But the market was also used as a morgue during the Belfast Blitz, 1941. Easter 1941, the Luftwaffe dropped about 180 bombs on Belfast. It was the most heavily damaged city after London. And the bodies who were brought here, as there wasn't enough room in the hospitals, so the bodies were brought to St George's Market, and they were trying to differentiate who the people were, and those that were unidentified, we had to have 2 funerals for them. They had to have a Catholic one and a Protestant one, just in case. So we're on the edge of the linen quarter. Every time I do this tour of Belfast, I find that Belfast has another quarter. I think we're about 7 now, but they're definitely more than 4. We've just left the Titanic quarter, and we're in the edge of the linen quarter. We also have, we're heading up into the Queen's quarter. We have the Gaeltacht quarter. We also have the Cathedral quarter, the Smithfield quarter, the Filthy quarter. Is that it, John? John's called. Definitely more than 4. I think it was about 7 or 8. But we're on the edge of the linen quarter. And the reason for this being is we're sort of on the edge of the business district of Belfast. Belfast in the early 20th century was the largest linen producer in the world. So if you look over to the left, down these streets are very straight and the buildings are very square, as they were all linen warehouses, some whiskey warehouses as well. But they're not warehouses like an Amazon warehouse, I would call a warehouse. They're very ornate. They were more like linen showrooms. So the linen was brought over to the White Linen Hall, which was replaced by the Belfast City Hall, and this is where the linen was sold just before the City Hall was built. And Queen Victoria had a 4-hour visit. She did inspect the linens in the White Linen Hall. So this one over here, 10 Square, this was formerly a linen warehouse, so you get an idea of how ornate the buildings were. They're just on the left-hand side. And just behind the City Hall, it's now the Danske Bank, but this is formerly the Northern Bank, and this is the scene of one of the biggest bank robberies in British history. December 2004, 2 of the employees, their families were held hostage, and the employees were ordered to come in and open the vault underneath the bank. £26.5 million was taken from the Northern Bank during that robbery, and that money was never recovered. Now all I know about was that Christmas I got a diamond ring. John says he got a Rolex, but that's all we're prepared to say without the presence of a solicitor. Isn't that right, John? No, nothing. Say nothing, as we say in Belfast. Our next stop's going to be stop number 7 then, for the Great Victoria Street City Sightseeing Tourist Information Shop, the Crown Bar, the Grand Opera House, and the Europa Bus Centre and the Europa Hotel. And just before we turn the corner, just where that bus is turned, just where that green tree is, there just through the second set of traffic lights, that's the nearest police station to the Northern Bank. So they were able to fill up a white van with £26.5 million in used notes, and that's the nearest police station. So take from that story what you want. So our tourist information shop's round the corner here on the left hand side. If you wish to purchase any further tours, we do Game of Thrones tours, John's Causeway tours, and some walking tours. If you do wish to purchase any more tours, I'd be very happy to help you out in the information shop, which is located around the corner here opposite the Grand Opera House. So as we turn the corner, you'll see the Grand Opera House, and then you'll see the Europa Hotel just beside it. Formerly known as the most bombed hotel in Western Europe. The journalists used to stay here during the Troubles, and the front windows were nearly always boarded up. Journalists like to stay from the 4th floor up, as any damage was from the 3rd floor down. But the hotel never closed throughout the Troubles. It only closed during COVID for the first time. And the left hand side, that's the Crown Bar. So, stop number 7, this is your stop.
Yeah. We just did.
Fully covered in upstairs, so you can go upstairs without fear of getting wet. You're very, very welcome. If you've just joined us, my name's Emma. I'm your guide today, and your driver's name is John. Just ask if you are moving around the bus. Please hold on to the handrails, and please ring the bell if you do want off at any of the stops. So our next stop then is going to be stop number 8, and this is for the Dublin Road, the ETAP Hotel, the Points, and the Filthy Quarter. So I was born in 1972. I know I don't look at John, thanks very much, but I was. And I was what was known as a child of violence. 1972 was the worst year for the Troubles. So we didn't socialise within the city centre. Belfast was surrounded by a ring of steel, and you couldn't enter the city centre at night. Now the socialising is within the cathedral quarter, but the cathedral quarter was derelict, and it was enclosed by the ring of steel, so you couldn't enter the city centre at night. If you did want to enter the city centre during the day, you would have entered through a series of gates and turnstiles. You would have had a body search, your bag was searched, and even prams and buggies or strollers were searched. And my mum always tells a story when I was a baby. I wasn't a great sleeper. She said the policewoman wanted me lifted out of my pram so she could search underneath it. And my mum said, if you wake her, you take her. So we socialised up more towards this area of the city. We're heading up towards the Queen's Quarter. So this would be more of what we would call a mixed crowd. And when we talk about mixed anything here in Belfast, we nearly always mean mixed religion. So it's a much more Bohemian area as we're going into the university area. So we socialised up towards this area, say towards the Golden Mile. So our next stop then, stop number 8, and this is for the Dublin Road. And the points bar on the left hand side, if you're looking for any traditional Irish music, there's some on in the points bar here on the left. And we're going to head up then towards stop number 9, and this is for Shaftesbury Square, Lavery's Bar, and the Crescent Arts Centre. And Lavery's Bar is another bar where we used to socialise in the late 80s and 90s whenever I was growing up. Lavery's Bar is 4 floors of, there's a comedy club, there is a pool hall, there's music, there's food. They'll even let you pour your own pint of Guinness. I think the downside to that is they'll make you drink it. Now many drivers tell me there's no downside to Guinness, but I'm afraid I have to agree with your opinion on Guinness, John. John says no, there's no downside to Guinness. I'm not, the jury's out for me. But I say, well, that's Lavery's Bar there on the left. Must have been about lunchtime. Our next stop then is stop number 10, and this is for Queen's University. This is for the Botanic Gardens, the Tropical Ravine, and the Ulster Museum. We're heading up into the Queen's Quarter. Just stay in your seat just until we get there. There's just been a new exhibition unveiled in the Ulster Museum, and this is what I'd be doing if I wasn't taking you lovely people around the city. They've just an exhibition for 2 Caravaggios that are here in Belfast. They're together for the first time in since the 17th century. The Taking of Christ and the Last Supper, and they have just been unveiled here on Friday. as part of an exhibition at the Ulster Museum. Well worth a visit if you've got any time. But we're going to head up towards Queen's University. Queen's is going to be on your left. Famous alumni from Queen's include the writer Seamus Heaney, who was both a lecturer and a student here at Queen's. Former Irish President Mary McAleese, she went to Queen's University, and the actor Liam Neeson, he also went to Queen's University. But that's it there on the left. This is the Lanyon building, designed by the architect Charles Lanyon, who designed a number of the buildings here in Belfast, including the Customs House, which we saw between stop 1 and 2, and if you stay on with me, including the jail as well. Hillary Clinton, the current Chancellor for Queen's University, the Clinton family, very instrumental figures in the 1998 peace process. But stop number 10, this is your stop if you're visiting the museum, and the Botanic Gardens are located just on up through those trees there on the left. Stop number 11 then is going to be your next stop. This is for Eglantine Avenue. This is for the National Football Stadium at Windsor Park and the Malone Hotel and Lisburn Road Shopping. So that's the Ulster Museum there on the left, just located behind the trees, and also the Botanic Gardens. The buildings on the left hand side, these are still part of the Queen's University campus. So this coloured building here on the left, this is the Computer Science building. And just behind it then we also have the Chemistry and Psychology building. And over on the right hand side, the Botanic Inn, sometimes known as the Bot. Again, this is another place where we socialised in the 80s and 90s when I was a student. You can see how far outside the city we are. Now we're now in South Belfast. Buildings on the left and right, they're now primarily student accommodation. They were formerly where the wealthy businessmen and women, this is where they would have chosen to live. Belfast city centre, Belfast was a very industrial city, so the city centre was very dirty and polluted and overcrowded. So the wealthier men and women who founded the city preferred to live up here where the air was a bit cleaner. As I say, it was a very industrial city. In the early 20th century, Belfast we had the largest shipbuilding industry in the world, we had the largest linen industry in the world, we had the largest rope works, we had some of the largest cigarette factories, we had some of the largest whiskey distilleries, and we had one of the largest aerated water companies. And if you're wondering what aerated water is, that's fizzy drinks. And ginger ale was actually invented here in Belfast by a company called Cantrell and Cochrane. So next time you're having your whiskey and ginger, John, you can think of me telling you that a very interesting fact. You can astound people the next time you're in the pub with that fact when they have their whiskey and ginger. Yes, you will. And you'll think of me. So our next stop's going to be stop number 12 then. And it's for Culturland or Culturland McAdam Fee to give it its full title.
So that's people on.
So you've heard me refer to it a few times on this tour. But what we refer to euphemistically as the Troubles started in the late 1960s and lasted for around 30 years. And it was broadly between the two communities here. Nationalists are those whose ultimate aim is for a united Ireland, and Unionists are those who wish to remain part of the United Kingdom. Most historians point to the events of August 1969 as the beginning of the Troubles. So in August 1969, at an apprentice boys' march in Derry, Londonderry, some violence broke out, and this violence spread throughout the province. And in a bid to quell the civil unrest, on the 14th of August 1969, the British government dispatched 300 soldiers here under the name of Operation Banner, beginning the longest continuous deployment in British military history. So physical barriers started to spring up, such as the one we're going to see shortly. These started off as temporary structures, maybe burnt out cars or fences, broken fences, bits of beds, just things that people from the area could find. But they soon turned into something more permanent. Children attended segregated schools, most here still do. And how you said the 8th letter of the alphabet, this would have probably denoted which community you came from and what kind of a school you were taught in. So if you were taught in a nationalist or a Catholic school, you would say H. And if you were taught in a Unionist or a Protestant school, you would say H. So we had to be very careful as to which way we said that letter of the alphabet, depending on which area we were in. And adults would have socialised, at that time adults would have socialised within their own areas. We were students, so we all liked to mix, but most adults older than me wouldn't have left their own areas, especially at night. There was a number of social clubs and drinking clubs within individual areas. So there was very little to bring the two communities together at that time. But by the late 80s and early 90s, both sides realised that neither was going to fully achieve all their aims, so they started a series of peace talks. And these peace talks resulted on the 10th of April 1998 on the Good Friday Agreement. And under what the Good Friday Agreement is, it's a multi-party agreement. It was agreed by some, but not all of the political parties here. It's also agreed by the British and Irish government and the American administration at the time that Bill Clinton was president. He also had a hand in the Good Friday Agreement. So under the Good Friday Agreement, the people here can identify as British, Irish or both. We have dual nationality, which allows us to have 2 passports. Very handy in the current times of Brexit, depending on where you're travelling to. And we've been relatively stable here ever since. Over on the left-hand side there, you've got Windsor Park. This is the home of the national football team, home of the Northern Ireland team. It's a very small stadium, it only holds about 28,000 people. It's also the home of one of the local football teams as well, Linfield. So here on the right, just you'll see on the gable end of this, on the end of this street, you'll see the Northern Ireland flag, and it shows the symbol of the Red Hand of Ulster. And the Red Hand of Ulster is a symbol which is used by both communities here. It's on the Northern Ireland flag, and it's also on some Gaelic teams have it as their emblem as well. The legend of the Red Hand of Ulster is that two chieftains were racing to the island of Ireland. The second chieftain didn't think he was going to get there first, so he cut off his hand and threw it onto the land, declared himself the winner. And what always strikes me about that story is why he didn't cut off somebody else's hand. But that's the legend there, whether you believe it or not. And actually the first mention of Belfast is in the Annals of Ulster. It talks about 2 tribes, it's from the 6th century. 2 tribes, have a guess what they're doing. John, I bet you can't guess. Not partying, says John, no fighting. 2 tribes fighting. It's the first mention of Belfast in the Annals of Ulster. So over to the left hand side, just past the McDonald's there, you'll see another piece of public art, and this one's called Rise. And this represents a new dawn rising into the world. The wreaths around the bottom, the spikes around the bottom represent the bogs from the reeds from the bog meadows. As if you take your mind back 200 years in the mid countryside, in a very rural area of Belfast. We have another name for it. We call it actually the Balls and the Falls. We're also entering to what's known as an interface area. You'll notice in Belfast there's some areas where the two communities come up very close against each other, maybe only separated by a street or a road, and these are known as interfaces, and this is one of them. And the road which we're going to go on over the top of runs underneath us and links the two motorways together, and there was some government papers a few months ago that said that this road was built here to separate the two communities as we were in an interface. Over on the right now, that's the Park Centre. This was formerly Belfast Celtic Park, the home of the Belfast Celtic team. But as I say, because we're in an interface, in the 1940s the football team had to close as the supporters didn't feel safe walking around this area. So the football team had to fold. So the next thing you're going to see then is going to be on your left, and it's a memorial garden for some of the members of Sinn Féin who were killed in the Troubles. As we go up, Falls Road's just at the top of this road here. You'll see some flags of the Irish Republic. These have been out since commemorating the Easter 1916 Rising. And the Easter 1916 Rising was an armed insurrection by some Irish volunteers against the British Crown Forces who were in charge of Ireland at the time. The volunteers were able to seize some strategic points in Dublin, including the GPO. And from the steps of the GPO, one of their leaders, Patrick Pearse, read a proclamation declaring a Republic of Ireland. He was joined by another one of their leaders, James Connolly. And you'll see the Connolly statue around the corner here on the right. The volunteers were able to hold out for 6 days before they surrendered. They were court-martialed, and 14 of their leaders were executed, including Patrick Pearse and James Connolly. They were executed in the grounds of Kilmainham Jail in Dublin. It was these events which led to the Irish War of Independence in 1919. So James Connolly was actually a Scottish man. He came from Edinburgh, but he lived in the house in the Falls Road for a few years. You're going to see the James Connolly statue on the right hand side just as we go on to the Falls Road. If you're entering into Dublin by train from Belfast, you'll enter into Connolly Station. It's named after him. So over on the right hand side, that is the Connolly Centre, and the statue of James Connolly there just outside it, as you can see. You remember I told you about the segregated schools. So this school on the left, this is Coinage Firsta. This is the only Irish speaking secondary school. They speak only Gaelic in the Coinage Firsta. They're taught entirely in Gaelic here on the left. So as we're now in the Falls Road, if you look left and right and sometimes over your shoulder, you'll see some artwork on the ends of the terraced houses. Terraced houses will nearly always have a flat surface at the end of the street to allow the artist to work on, and they'll always have some form of artwork on them. But the first one you're going to see is going to be on your left, and this is for Pat Finucane, here on the left hand side. Pat Finucane was a human rights activist and a solicitor. He was killed in his home one Sunday afternoon. Over on the right hand side, that's Coulterland, stop number 12 then. If you think it looks like a Presbyterian church, you'll be right. It was formerly a Presbyterian church, but due to the change in demographic of the area, it's now an Irish cultural and Gaelic centre. It contains an art gallery and a restaurant, and they do speak primarily Gaelic in the Coulterland. Though if you ask for a cup of tea in any other language, they'll certainly be happy to help you out. And that's it there on the right hand side. You'll notice that it has a Palestinian flag outside it, as the members of this community would identify with the Palestinian side of the Middle Eastern conflict. Next up then is for the Falls Road, stop number 13, for the Falls Memorial Garden and the Bobby Sands mural. And this building over to the right hand side, this is the Royal Victoria Hospital, sometimes just known as the Royal. For such a small city, Belfast, we have 3 hospitals. They're located in 3 different parts of the city, and the real reason for this is that during the Troubles, roads could be opened and closed at random, meaning we needed to be able to access emergency care quickly. So we had to have the 3 different areas in the 3 different hospitals in 3 different areas. But this is the biggest one. This is the main one. The surgeons who worked in the Royal Victoria Hospital were known for their skill throughout the world due to some of the injuries which they encountered during the Troubles. You'll notice that the railings look like they're a bit dented. They're meant to look like strands of DNA. That's why they wave in and out. And you'll see the X and Y chromosomes there on the top of the railings. And you'll remember I spoke about one of the big whiskey distilleries. Go down to the right hand side, this street on the right hand side. This is where Dunville's distillery was, and that's Dunville Park over on the right. The Dunville family donated this green space and water fountain to the people of Falls Road. Falls was very overcrowded at the start of the 20th century, and the distillery was here just down this road to the left, or to the right, sorry. But the next mural you're going to see is going to be on your left. So this depicts some of the events which I spoke about a few moments ago. You'll see the GPO in flames, you'll see the proclamation of the Irish Republic, and also you'll be able to see some of the figures of the Easter 1916 Rising. If you look over to the left, there's James Conley, the little purple figure there, and that's Patrick Pearse, the top left pink figure there. So as I keep looking left and right and sometimes over your shoulder to see some of the murals, you will have to look over your left shoulder to see the Bobby Sands mural, because on the left hand wall, just past these trees here on the left, it's at the end of the Sinn Féin building. So Bobby Sands, if you don't know, he was a prisoner. He wanted to achieve political status, so he went on a hunger strike in 1981. During this hunger strike, he lasted for 66 days. During this hunger strike, he was elected MP for Fermanagh in South Tyrone. And also during his hunger strike, there on the left, 9 other prisoners joined him. So 10 prisoners in total died on the hunger strike in 1981. And political status wasn't achieved until about 1983. You'll notice from that mural it also says Bobby Sands was a poet, and if you keep looking over your left shoulder, you'll see some lines of his poetry there on that left hand wall, just the end of the library. So our next stop then is going to be stop number 14, and this is for the International Wall murals. If you look over the right hand side, you'll see a commemoration of those 10 prisoners who died on hunger strike in 1981. And also see Royal Garden for some of the members of D Company of the IRA. IRA, a legal paramilitary organisation, stands for the Irish Republican Army, and that is their Royal Garden there on the right. You also see on the right the twin spires of St Peter's Cathedral there, and just in front of you that's Divis Tower. This is the infamous Divis Tower. During the Troubles, the Army commandeered the top 2 floors of Divis Tower. They were helicoptered in and out. Their supplies were helicoptered in and out. So you get an idea of how far they can see from those top 2 floors of Divis Tower. You can see all over West Belfast. In fact, you can probably see over the whole of the city from those top 2 floors. But we're going to turn left, and the International Wall is going to be on your right. So this wall represents conflicts throughout the world, as well as some prominent figures in Irish history. There we've got James Conley there, the first figure on your right hand side. And there's this one here with the little faces. There's Bobby Sands in the middle. Again, this is some prominent figures in Irish history there, including Mary Ann McCracken, who's got the statue there in the first set of piece gates, you'll notice the flags and the murals start to change. Those are a more unionist perspective there on the right. You've got the Arthur Guinness and some murals for the Battle of the Somme there in 1916. As we're in another interface, the area is controlled by a number of piece gates. These gates close every night and reopen again in the morning. They are closed overnight every night. And they can also be closed in times of tension. If there's any tension within the area, the gates do close over. Our next stop then is going to be for the Belfast Peace Wall, stop number 15. And that's it there in front of you. And as we approach the Peace Wall, you'll see a set of gates to the left. Again, these gates open and close. Closed overnight. Sorry, they're closed overnight to reopen again in the morning. But Belfast Peace Wall there just in front of you, it's 45 feet high. It's 3 times higher than the Berlin Wall, and it's been here for twice as long. It's currently the world's largest open-air art project. The art, again, a bit like the murals which are dotted throughout the city, the art is constantly changing on the Peace Wall. They were doing some graffiti artists were working on it there a few days ago. It was a hit in the North Art Festival and they redid parts of the wall. So the wall is constantly changing as an art project. If you look closely, the houses on the other side back directly up to the wall. You can see some small gates that can be opened in times of emergency. So people get off here to sign the wall, write their names, and they write little messages of hope. And every 4 years the walls clean down and they start again. And this green one on the left with the bird and the barbed wire, I think this is my favourite one. It's just only been done in the last couple of weeks. But as I say, people get off and write their names and write little messages of hope. And if you got off to sign your name on the wall here, you'd be in good company. The Dalai Lama, when he was here in Belfast, he signed the wall. He wrote, "Open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values." Bill Clinton, when he was here, he signed the wall. He said, "I did not have relations with that woman." That's John's favourite part of the tour, isn't it, John? The drivers all love that. I have to work in my Bill Clinton impersonation. No, he actually wrote, "Strength and wisdom are not opposing values." That's what he wrote. So the wall's here with the consent of the community. It was a suggestion in 2013 that all the peace walls would be taken down by 2023. But as you can see, we're in 2024 and the wall is still very much a permanent fixture. Our next stop then is going to be stop number 16, and this is for the Shankill Road wall murals. So we're going to turn right here on the end and you'll be able to see on your left then another peace gate before we turn onto the Shankill Road. The Shankill and the falls actually run parallel with each other. So any of the streets that run in between them will nearly always have some form of gate or they'll be closed off permanently. Those streets in between the Shankill and the falls. move towards the Shankill Road, you'll see the flags and emblems start to change to those of a more unionist perspective. You'll see the red, white, blue of the Union flag. You'll also probably see some Israeli flags as well, as the members of this community will identify more with the Israeli side of the Middle Eastern conflict. The next stop then is going to be stop number 16, and this is for the Shankill Road World Murals. And the first one you're going to see is going to be on your right, and this is for the White Rock Flute Band. So on the 12th of July every year there'll be a parade commemorating the Battle of the Boyne. Battle of the Boyne from 1690, and King William of Orange's victory over King James II. And King William of Orange, sometimes called King Billy, but that's why they're called Orange Men, after William of Orange. So there'll be a parade here, I say, on the 12th of July, and the White Rock Flute Band, you'll see their mural on the right. They would be one of the bands who would parade in that 12th of July commemoration. So as we're now on the Shankill Road, again, keep looking left and right and sometimes over your shoulder, and you'll see some of the artwork on the street ends. The flat surfaces have the artwork and the murals if you keep looking left and right. The next one you're going to see then is going to be on your left. And this is a one for C Company of the UVF. The UVF, an illegal paramilitary organisation, stands for the Ulster Volunteer Force. That's it there on the left. The fact that their faces are all uncovered shows that they are all deceased. And if you keep looking to the left, you'll see it's now the Court Credit Union. It was formerly Frizzell's Fish Shop. On the 23rd of October 1993, there was a bomb placed in the fish shop on a Saturday afternoon. 10 people were killed, including the bomber and the owner of the shop. Number 17, that's the Shankill Memorial Garden there on the right hand side, and this is the site of the Bayardo Bar. 5 people were killed on this site in 1975, and that's it there on the right hand side. And also on the right you've got another mural depicting some of the events of the Troubles. So our next stop then, stop number 18, and this is for the Crumlin Road Jail. Belfast after 1998 was very different to what it was when I was growing up. The Good Friday Agreement changed everything. Belfast is a very thriving city now, but the main legacy of the Good Friday Agreement for me is that there are people alive today who wouldn't be alive were it not for it. It's not perfect, but it's better than what we had. And I say we live in a very thriving city now. Belfast has 80 cultural festivals every year. We have 2 Michelin star restaurants. We're set to be a host city for the Europa Euros in 2028. And in 2020, 250,000 passengers and crew embarked from the cruise ships to come and join us here in Belfast. So we have a saying now, we say Belfast is buzzing. So our next stop then, stop number 18 for Crumlin Road Jail. Crumlin Road Jail was a working prison up until 1996, when it closed and became a visitor centre and a museum in 2001. And I have it in good authority, don't ask me how I know this, that when they did the restoration, they asked some of the ex-prisoners did they want to come up and have a look round, and most of them said they called it the crop. when it was a jail. Most of them said, no, I spent enough time in the prison, I don't really fancy going back. But some of them did want to go back and have a look at their own cells. The Crumlin Road jail, when it was open, was based on the design of Pentonville Prison. Got a central courtyard with 4 wings coming off, and as I said, it was designed by the architect Charles Lanyon, who also designed Queen's University. But it was based on the central courtyard with 4 wings so that the prisoners could be segregated to keep them separate. So there was a section for the NRA, there was a section for the UVF, but they had to have a section for the ODC. And if you're wondering why I haven't mentioned the ODC, who were they? Well, they were the ordinary decent criminals. They didn't affiliate to any paramilitary group, so they needed a section of their own. So this is it here on the left-hand side. These buildings, it was covered by a 10-foot fence when I was growing up. But these buildings on the left-hand side, they're prison officers' houses. So I didn't realise how close to the road prison officers lived. But that's it there on the left-hand side. So stop number 18, this is your stop. So that's the Crumlin Road Courthouse on the right-hand side. Crumlin Road Courthouse was a working courthouse up until 1999. There's actually a tunnel links the two underneath the road. So when the judge said the Crumlin Road Courthouse, take them down, you were taken down underneath the road and you popped up in jail, so the best chance of you escaping. But the Crumlin Road Courthouse was sold to be a hotel about 20 years ago. There's been a number of fires in it. I think if you look closely you'll see some trees growing up in the middle of the building. So unfortunately it's in a very bad state of disrepair. I think it's going to have to be demolished, which is a terrible shame.
Which one is it?
And this building on the left, you'll remember I spoke about the 3 hospitals in 3 different areas of the city. Well, this is another of the hospitals, as I say, in a different area so that we can access the emergency care quickly. And how you said the name of this hospital, this would have probably denoted which community you came from. So some people called it the Mater, some people called it the Mater, but now we say it doesn't matter what you call the Mater, as long as you find out what's the matter. It's very, very safe to walk around here now. But if you're walking around here during the Troubles, which side of the road you walked on would have probably denoted which community you came from. So if you're walking on the left-hand side, you'd have been deemed to be a Catholic or a nationalist. And if you're walking on the right, you'd have been deemed to be a unionist or a Protestant. So it's very, very safe to walk around here now, but it was known as the Murder Mile. And if anybody knows this song by Elvis Costello, Oliver's Army, where he talks about the Murder Mile, this is what he was talking about. He was talking about Crumlin Road.
There's a bit of gardening down with the spire.
Over on the right hand side, you'll remember I spoke about the 12th of July parade. So this is the largest Orange Hall in Ireland here. You can see King William of Orange, King Billy as he's sometimes known. He's up on the top on his horse. King Billy's turned a bit green, so I don't know how happy he would be about that for an Orangeman, but that's the only statue in Ireland of him on top of his horse, and that's the largest Orange Hall on the right. You also see the Belfast coat of arms there, just above the door. Represents our maritime history with the 2 seahorses, and I've also got the motto, the Belfast motto, I'm going to read it because my Latin's not very good. Pro tanto quid retribunamus, which means how much will we give for so little? The seahorse there on the Belfast coat of arms. If you're staying in the Grand Central Hotel, which is a large hotel, you'll see the seahorse on the side of the building. That's the reason why. It's for maritime history. So next, there's over on the right hand side. Next up then is going to be stop number 19, and this is for Donegal Street, Clifton Street Poorhouse, St Patrick's Church and St Dan's Cathedral. So that's Clifton Street Poorhouse here on the left hand side, and you've got St Patrick's Church there just in front of you. So this is the parish of one of our most famous artists, Sir John Lavery, one of the most famous artists from Belfast. This is where he came from. He was baptised in St Patrick's Church there, which is just down on the left. This was a very poor area of Belfast. So for John Lavery to come from this area and end up in the upper establishments of British society was quite an achievement. He taught Winston Churchill how to paint. Apparently they were great friends, and there's a great exhibition for John Lavery on up in the Ulster Museum. It's on for a few more weeks. It's about £6 into the exhibition. The museum itself is free, but it's well worth paying £6 to go up and look at some of the John Lavery paintings in the Ulster Museum. He donated a painting to St Patrick's Church, which is here on the left, because this is where he was baptised. And you can go in and have a little look. It's in a little room on the left hand side, and it's worth about £3.5 million. The blue platform here on the left commemorating his living in this area there just before you get to the church. So stop number 19, and this is your stop. So another piece of public art here on the left, this mural climbing of the squirrel climbing up the wall. People go nuts for it. John, that's the end of our jokes. And that's the dome of Victoria Square there just in front of you. If you've got the dome, you'll have a 360-degree panoramic view of the city. We've also got St Dan's Cathedral there on the left-hand side, the largest Celtic cross in Ireland on the side of the building. And here on the right-hand side, it's our central library, but if anybody watches Line of Duty, they'll maybe recognise it as it's the police headquarters from Line of Duty. This is where he says Jesus, Mary, Joseph and the wee donkey. There on the right-hand side. And just in front of you then, those two white sides, you'll remember I spoke about the Ring of Steel. So if you're entering into the city centre from this side of the city, this is where you would have entered through the Ring of Steel. So at this point, the army would have got on the bus. They would have searched the bus. They would have searched your bag. Actually, we didn't have double-decker buses in the city centre in Belfast during the Troubles. Too much to search. So we'd been in a single-decker bus. They would have searched your bag. They would have maybe asked you what your name was, where you were coming from and where you were going to. And we were all legally required to give this information. Most people here carried some form of ID during that time just to verify their identity in case they were asked. We have free access in and out of the city centre now, as you can see. I'm sure you can see. We can access anytime we want. But it did change the demographic of the city centre. People don't live in the centre of Belfast the way they live in other cities. The upper floors of most of these buildings are derelict and empty. People are starting to move back into the city centre now, but mostly the upper floors of the buildings are empty. It's just an old hangover from the Troubles. But that all stopped in the late 1990s actually, so we have free access in and out of the city centre whenever we want. And that's Castle Court there on the right hand side. If you've any money to spend, they'd be very happy to see you in Castle Court. It's called Castle Court. It was formerly in the grounds of the old Belfast Castle from the early 18th century. Belfast Castle now on the slopes of the Cave Hill. But I said this is the old Belfast Castle from the original foundations. So we're nearly at the end of our tour. We hope you've enjoyed your tour with us going around the city as much as we've enjoyed taking you around. If you have enjoyed your tour, we'd be very grateful if you'd leave us a little review on TripAdvisor. It helps to keep our bosses happy. If you search up City Sightseeing Belfast on TripAdvisor, my name's Emma, I've been your guide today, and your driver's name is John. But if you haven't enjoyed it and you still want to give us a little review, my name's Kate, your driver named William. Or you can just call him your man. You'll notice in Belfast we don't know people's names, especially men, we'll just say your man. What do you call it? That's your man, do you remember? So just prefer, you can say your man. But if you have enjoyed the tour and you'd like to show your appreciation in a different way, we do have a little tip box here at the front. It's how us lowly tour guides and bus drivers make our money here in Belfast. So we really, really appreciate any contribution which you'd like to give us. So that is Belfast City Hall there, just directly in front of you. A great view of Queen Victoria's statue there, and some of the bronze statues around the plinth. They represent some of our industries here in Belfast. You've also got the Titanic Memorial Garden here on the right hand side. The Titanic Memorial Garden is the only memorial that shows all the names of those people who died in Titanic listed in alphabetical order. It's the only memorial in the world to do so. You've also got the original Titanic Memorial there on the right. The goddess holds a black laurel wreath. This memorial is from the 1920s and actually stood in the road just behind you before it was moved to the grounds of the City Hall. So we are nearly back at stop number 1. Just ask you remain in your seat just until John brings the bus to a safe stop, and we may have to do a little bit of manoeuvring when we get round to the side of the City Hall here. Please make sure you've got all your belongings with you when you're leaving the bus. John and I like to do a car boot sale on the weekend to supplement our wages. So any lost property we find goes into the car boot sale. We haven't found anything good yet though, sure we haven't, John? No. I need the iPhone, what's the iPhone? 17? 18 maybe, 18 I think. No, please make sure you take all your belongings with you whenever you're leaving the bus. And if you have any further questions, we'll be happy to answer them. I'll happily answer the easy questions. I'll let John answer the hard ones, and we'll Google everything else for you. We'll say just stay in your seat just until we get round to stop number 1.
I'll give you that change.
Say just stay in your seat there just until John brings the bus to a safe stop here. Just right, folks. As we say in Belfast, that's us now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Alright, well, thank you.
And what did you want? Proper food and wine, yes. That's just to call that video.